welcome to another Magic the Gathering themed video. So I'm badging this up as a Deck Musings episode, but it's going out on a Sunday. It's not going to interfere with the Monday Deck Musings episode. That's still going to go out as normal. This is a bonus, but it's taking up a Sunday slot. So on Sunday I might normally put out something like a tarot deck flip through, or an episode of My Life in Objects, something like that, or an episode of A Year of Brian Eno. So I've moved what I was going to put out originally on a week, and I'm doing this one instead. And this arose out of a happy accident, and then got me thinking about building casual decks as a result. So I recently posted a Friday artwork video where, as I said, I didn't have many cards to talk about, and I brought out my, here it is in front of me, Magic the Gathering Official Deck Builder's Guide, and flicked through that. So as a result of that, one of those nice things happened where a friend of the channel, long-term friend of the channel, checked in on the comment section. And when people do that, I always just have this natural tendency to sort of give a little more. So I did a quick search, like a PDF search, to see if maybe, there was a copy of the book online that could be legally downloaded somehow. And so we weren't doing anything illegal. And as a result of that, I ended up on the Internet Archive. I don't know if anybody that watches the channel uses this. It's a really useful resource. And although I didn't find the book on here, and admittedly, I must admit I didn't go too deeply, because I got so excited because I found other stuff which in some ways I was more interested in. So that's why I've rushed this video out, because I just wanted to share this. I don't know whether any of this stuff disappears or not. I mean, this is a legit organisation. You can check out the About section if you want to know a bit more about them. As you can see, there's a connection between Internet Archive and the Wayback Machine, which makes perfect sense when you see what they're trying to achieve here. But what happened was I started playing around with searches in here. As I've said, it's a resource I've used on and off before. I find what's happening a lot now is often if I ask for resources in Bing connected to certain publications, older publications, sometimes it will come up with links to Internet Archive. So yeah, like I said, I've been down this rabbit hole before, but bizarrely, I don't think I've ever attempted to look for Magic the Gathering material. So I'm going to go through and show you some interesting searches that I've done, and I'm going to post these as links in the description, and also the sort of stuff that I found, and the differences between the different types of things you can do. I mean, there seems to be like 3 categories here, roughly, that stuff falls into. And we're just dealing with the first category, which is the category of things you can access without being logged into the site. Because that's always handy if you don't have to set up an extra account. So you can see here I've just done this search, and I've not attempted to really dig deep into learning the advanced search syntax. So this is really basic stuff. So I've just got subject, Magic the Gathering. And you can see I've restricted it on text, and there's 251 texts here. And you can see there's some pretty interesting stuff. So at this point I was just trying to get a feel in terms of what I could access. But what I then went on and did, and I'll take you through this, is I started to sort of narrow things down a bit by doing slightly better searches. You can see we've got quite an interesting mixed bag of things here. We've got the Dualist, there's some Magic the Gathering books here. Inquest is here, Top Deck, and some of these Magic the Gathering guides as well. Now, one of the things when you're using this, so let me try and pick an example where I know there's going to be some indexing stuff. If I go into, we'll come back to this in a moment. So you can see here you've got topics and collections. Anybody that's been involved a lot with meta tagging of stuff will probably know that when you're dealing with stuff that other people have tagged, or different people or groups where there's an inconsistency, sometimes it because it's inconsistent, it's quite difficult to know whether you're getting everything back. So what I tend to do is I try a number of different subjects, title, keyword searches, whatever you want to call them. So you can see here, if I do subject Magic the Gathering, I get 251 results. If I do MTG, I get 255. And you can see here clearly, probably it's some of the things that were coming out in the previous search aren't coming out in this one, but it's quite possible that stuff is coming out in this one that wasn't coming out in the previous search. And I tried various predictable things, so Magic : The Gathering as well, and I get 251. It's quite possible that's the same result, although you can see things are jumping around a little bit. Then I tried WotC and got 56. And then I tried Strategy Guide and got these two, which made me pretty excited because I have these in paper and both of them are available without having to log in. So you can either flick through these and read them that way, or you can see there's a number of download options. Now this is important for the channel because, and I'll try and find it, if you remember way back, long-term viewers of the channel, and I have mentioned this, this was the book that I used for the No Hand, No Land series that was done years ago. And I'm sure I didn't mention about this book, but there's other decks in here as well. So this one came out, as you can see, around the time of 5th edition. There were actually two books that were connected at that time. This official strategy guide, and then there was a second one which was an advanced strategy guide. And this one was written by Mark Justice with this fella. And if you're familiar with the Magic the Gathering, the official deck builder's guide, which I showed last week, this is the same author here. And yeah, there's more things about like draft tournaments in here and a whole number of things. Like I'll include links to these. As you can see, this is another one where you can just go through the whole thing. And then moving on, I tried Magic the Gathering strategy just to see whether I got more come up. A few other things. And if we click on this, this is a good example here where you can see you can't download. And if you go through this, you'll see you'll get to certain points and it will say a limited preview. Use your free account to borrow this book and gain access to its pages. So yeah, that's what you will see in some instances. But, you know, we got 2 out of that. And at some point I'll probably go through the other ones and just see what else is viewable. You can see, I think maybe the other 2, well, let's do it now. Yeah, aren't. Then I was aware that George Baxter, so a pro from way back in the day, had done a series of books. I have this one, and again, I was curious with this to see, and you can see there again, limited preview. But I suppose if I was bothered to set up an account here, I could go a bit deeper. Yep, limited preview. I think these are all the same actually, yeah. Just go back to this one, even though it's a limited preview, just to see how far in you can get. Not, yeah, just so you can see what this is about. So the approach here actually for this book is more about starting off with a starter deck and I think a few boosters, and then seeing from there what you can build through trading cards with other people. But you'll notice there are specific sections on certain archetypes as well. So this I was really pleased about. There's quite a number of dualists here, 34 in total. It does have the very first dualist. I think I have about the first 4, which I got off of eBay in very good condition several years ago. And as you can see, and again I haven't been all through all of these, but there's at least one here, and you'll see a few more actually I'm going to bring up, where yep, the whole thing is available online. And again, these are nice because if you're familiar with these, you'll know that a lot of the time these contained like decks for casual formats. They'd also have like interesting guides to sets that had just been released. You can see here we've got a few stories about upcoming releases. I'll just go all the way through. And obviously that changed over time. Now, there is an interesting one on here which is full access, and that's Dualist number 11. So why is this important? Well, this is the one that has this article on Elder Dragon Legend Wars, which in the history of EDH is often cited as a possible ground zero. But I would say it's also well worth going through these old copies of Dualist and just seeing what multiplayer gems and alternative formats they talk about from back in the day. Now the other thing on here, which also got me very excited, was the presence of player's guides. Now well, the first player's guide I got would have been 10th edition, but then I didn't buy any fat packs again until the 2010 core set, around about that period. So as a consequence, actually no, maybe 2011 actually. So, and then basically from that point onwards, going forward, I think I have pretty much every player's guide from 2011 core set until when they stopped doing them. So I was pretty excited here in terms of what was possibly available. Again, you can see here's the search. I also tried this with the title as guide, and it's interesting because you get a few other things as well, like these. I don't know if anybody remembers the pocket guide, or the pocket guides that came out. So they're lurking around in here as well. But in some ways I'm much more interested in the player's guides. You'll also notice there's the odd D&D thing here as well. This is interesting. I saw this kicking around one time. And yeah, for some reason I never bought it. I don't know why. Let me just see if it's... Oh yeah, there we go. So I don't know how many of these they did. These are pretty cool. So, as we're talking about fat packs, my understanding is that the first time that fat packs were released was Macadian masks, and in there would have been, my understanding, there would have been a player's guide, but those player's guides were produced from something I believe called, was it Top Deck, which was I think a spin-off of the Dualist. I might be wrong on that, sort of going from very foggy memory of stuff I've read on the internet. I don't think this is from there. It's the same sort of thing. The reason why I say that, you'll see in a moment, the ones that have been uploaded have those holes to go in a binder. So I think possibly there's a version of this like that, but my point is this actually has the same sort of information in it as you would find for a player's guide at that time. So just take note here, this is 128 pages, but the sort of things that are coming up, like there's, I think they go through like the different colours. This is what interested me, and this is what I was thinking about why I tied it in with the Deck Musings episode, is it looks like there's quite a number of casual decks that are built around cards from the set. I'd have to go through this to see if this was a case of what I think I spoke about, I don't know how many episodes ago, where I was talking about, you have constructed, like type 1, type 2, those sort of things, standard, extended. But then you have things like block constructed, where you only use cards from the block. But then you sometimes come across set constructed, very occasionally, where you're just using cards from a set. And I've spoken about that, actually also in relation to the official deck builder's guide, where there were several decks in there which just used cards from a set. So there was some 5th edition decks in there, and I think it was Homelands, from what I remember. So this is probably the bit, in terms of this cache of stuff. A number of these things I already have, but the two things I think I've gained most out of this happening last night, due to a happy accident of a very sort of pleasant interaction I was having with a long-term friend of the channel, just giving them a bit more information back, I stumbled across this. This is just fantastic when that sort of thing happens. So that's why I always love people to comment, because when they comment, I always like to dig a bit deeper, and then invariably something good will come out. So yeah, it's always worthwhile commenting, because invariably I'll go away and give you something else in addition to the video. So so this was pretty cool to find this up there. And if you compare it with Nemesis, which was the next set, you can see here this one definitely was from the fat pack. So 24 pages in here. Now you can see it looks like there's quite a big chunk missing from here. I'm not sure if anybody knows why it's numbered the way it is. I think, and this is what I think may have happened, didn't they pull a section from Top Deck? Was that the thing they did, where the thing that they inserted into those early fat packs was actually an extract from Top Deck, an issue of Top Deck about Nemesis, which just had the introduction, the colour analysis and the encyclopedia. So maybe I've answered my own question here. So maybe the Mercadian mask version of that would be an extract from this magazine, but with just those 3 sections in it. I don't know. It's difficult to tell, but maybe that's what would happen. So again, if you go through this, you can see some interesting decks. They kept that up for quite a while. From what I remember, my 10th edition, one of these does have that in it. We're going to look at some later ones as well, because I just love looking at these. There's the Apocalypse one. Again, it seems they're always around 24 here. Yeah, see, this one actually does have regular numbering. Here's our card encyclopedia. Wasn't it the case that also they would include a novel in the fat pack, or an extract from the novel as well? So I thought I'd look at Zendikar a little bit later. So we can sort of see what's here, how this compares to a later one. I need to go through this. I'm now curious as to what point they stopped printing sample decks to try out. Like I said, I've got a feeling it was sometime after 10th edition. But there's not, that many of these card encyclopedias actually on here. I mean, there's 52 under that category, and some of these aren't necessarily the player's guides. So at some point I probably will need to go through this and just see what's missing. And I'm curious to pinpoint the point, like I said, at which they stopped printing casual decks, whatever you want to call them. And then we have War of the Spark, which is a newer one, I suppose. Again, I can't remember the point at which they stopped including these. You can see these are a lot longer. Some of these are, obviously those other ones are going to be smaller because they're smaller sets. Isn't this cool? I don't know what the where's it gone? Let me find. There it is. What's the zoom like on this? Well, the scan's not too bad, actually. So I can see I'm going to have a busy weekend going through some of this. Yeah, isn't that awesome, I think? Yeah. Anyway, I thought everybody would like to see that, and as I've said, I'll go through and include for these the links for the searches. I'm not going to bother including links for individual things, I don't think. I might include the one for the do a deep link for this edition of the Dualist, simply because of that famous EDH article. And you can see up here it does index the page number, so I think some people might appreciate that if I was to do that. Oh, this looks so cool, doesn't it? Anyway, on that note, thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future video.